lesson is that sometimes we just get into these habits of getting up in the morning, putting foundation on, blowing out our hair, and it's just like, what do you look like if you don't do that? You're not going to scare anyone.
Pamela Anderson was born on July 1st, 1967, in a small town called Ladysmith on Vancouver Island. Her father Barry worked as a furnace repairman and sometimes cleaned chimneys wearing an old top hat. Her mother Carol waited tables at a pancake restaurant called Smitty's. Her parents were very young when they had her, and money was always tight. Pamela later described their home as a tiny little shack. Sometimes they lived on welfare, and when her parents separated, life became even harder. When Pamela was only 6 years old, a terrible nightmare began that would last for 4 years. A babysitter who was supposed to take care of her started abusing her. This woman seemed harmless to Pamela's parents. She brought toys, including a used Barbie head for styling hair, and gave Pamela small gifts that made it look like she cared. But in secret, the babysitter forced Pamela into horrible situations and kept her quiet by threatening her. Once, Pamela tried to fight back by grabbing a candy cane-shaped pen and trying to stab the woman, but the abuse continued. Her parents never knew what was happening. They thought this woman was helping their daughter. In 1979, when Pamela was just 12 years old, another tragedy struck. She went to visit a friend's boyfriend's house, but her friend left her alone there with the boyfriend's older brother, who was 25 years old. At first, everything seemed innocent as he taught her to play backgammon. But then he offered her a massage, and what followed was a brutal rape. This was her first experience with a man, and it was violent and terrifying. For decades, she told no one about this attack. It wasn't until 2023, when she wrote her book called Love, Pamela, that she finally spoke about it. She wrote about feeling like she was falling apart, and she blamed herself for what happened, carrying that shame for more than 30 years. Violence didn't end there. When Pamela was about 14 and starting high school, she got a boyfriend like any normal teenage girl. She trusted him completely. One day, he invited her somewhere, but it was a trap. He and 6 of his friends took turns raping her. 7 boys in total had planned this attack, including her own boyfriend who had organized it. This betrayal was beyond anything she could have imagined. After everything she had already been through, this attack broke something deep inside her. She said later that after it happened, she just wanted to disappear completely. Pamela couldn't tell anyone about these terrible experiences. Her father was gone most nights, drinking heavily, and her mother was exhausted from working 2 waitressing jobs and cried constantly from all the pressure. Pamela didn't want to add more pain to her family's life, so she kept everything buried inside. These violent experiences during her childhood and teenage years made it almost impossible for her to trust people again. That's when she began turning to animals for comfort instead of humans. Fame came to Pamela Anderson by accident. On August 9, 1989, she was just a 22-year-old fitness instructor sitting in the stands at a football game in Vancouver. She was wearing a tight crop top, and when the stadium camera showed her on the big screen, the crowd went wild. What looked like pure luck was actually somewhat planned. The shirt had been given to her by a friend who worked for the beer company, and behind the scenes, Pamela had already been trying to get their attention with the help of a photographer. That one stadium moment caused so many phone calls to the beer company that within weeks, she became the face of their advertising campaign. 1 month later, Hugh Hefner saw her beer advertisement and personally invited her to pose for Playboy magazine. At first, Pamela wasn't sure about it. She had been raised conservatively and didn't see herself as a sex symbol, but her mother encouraged her to do it. By October 1989, she was on the cover of Playboy. This was her first major step into a world she had never planned to enter. In February 1990, she became Playmate of the Month. In less than 6 months, Pamela had gone from teaching workout classes in small gyms to becoming a face known around the world. Soon after her rise to fame, Pamela made a decision that would affect her for decades. Inspired by other models and the growing expectations of the industry, she got breast implants. She went from a C-cup to a 34D in 1990. It seemed like something she was told was necessary to compete. What no one knew then was that one of those implants would secretly leak inside her body for 9 years. It wasn't until 1999, when she had them removed, that doctors discovered the leak. This was a serious health scare because the silicone could have caused major problems. She paid nearly $20,000 for the first surgery, and then again for the removal. By 2004, she went through another operation, this time increasing to a 36D. Over 14 years, Pamela's body had been changed multiple times, costing her over $50,000, not just in money, but also in comfort and peace of mind. In 1991, she moved to Los Angeles. By then, Playboy had featured her many times. Eventually, she would appear on 14 Playboy covers, earning her a place in the Guinness Book of World Records. Hugh Hefner once called her the DNA of Playboy, meaning she was that essential to the brand. She was earning over $100,000 per appearance by the mid-1990s. Even when she turned 48 in 2016, she posed one last time. That issue marked the end of an era because Playboy stopped showing nude photography right after. In total, her long relationship with the brand brought her more than $10 million, but it also trapped her in a certain image. Movie directors couldn't see beyond that image, and serious acting roles slipped away from her. That same year, 1991, Pamela was cast as Lisa, the original Tool Time girl on the TV show Home Improvement. She didn't get there through normal auditions. The producers already knew her from Playboy and wanted her specifically. She earned just $2,000 per episode, which was a humble beginning, but it put her directly in front of mainstream American audiences. By the third season, she was gone, but it wasn't because she was fired. She chose to leave because she had something bigger in mind. Baywatch was almost canceled when she joined in 1992 because the ratings were very low. Then came Pamela running in slow motion, wearing a bright red swimsuit with high-cut legs and a low neckline. That image of her changed everything. Within a year, Baywatch exploded in popularity. The show was broadcast in 142 countries and watched by over 1 billion people. At its peak, Pamela was earning $300,000 per episode. During her 5 seasons from 1992 to 1997, she appeared in 110 episodes and filmed over 2,000 slow-motion sequences, becoming the most recognizable woman on television. But fame that big came with dark shadows. Behind the scenes of Baywatch, Pamela was suffering terribly. Crew members and even other actors constantly made crude jokes about her implants. On camera, she was iconic, but off camera, she was being humiliated daily. She talked about this publicly years later in her 2023 Netflix documentary. The producers didn't stop the harassment. They actually encouraged it because they said it was part of the brand. Pamela wanted to speak up but was afraid of being labeled as difficult to work with, so she endured it for 5 full seasons. The show that made her a global icon also damaged her deeply. She developed serious body image issues and thought about removing her implants during filming, but never did. Our contract kept her quiet, and the fear of being thrown away kept her from complaining. In 1993, she got her first real chance at movies when she starred in Snapdragon, a psychological thriller where she played a seductive woman with memory loss who was connected to multiple murders. The role was heavily promoted, and she even wore a tight catsuit at the Cannes Film Festival, but none of it worked. The movie was a complete disaster. Critics were brutal, with one saying she couldn't act her way out of a paper bag. The film cost $3.2 million to make, but earned less than $500,000 worldwide. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes was only 21%. This failure didn't just hurt. It made movie directors think twice about giving her serious roles. From that moment on, she was seen as just a TV personality, and her dreams of being a movie star were crushed before they really began. Years later, in a 2009 interview in the UK, Pamela made a quiet confession. During her early Baywatch years, she had experimented with cocaine. She said she didn't like it because it made her too hyper, but she had used it during a dark period when photographers chased her down every street and tabloids destroyed her personal life. Even her own family didn't know about this. Not her parents, and not her sons, Brandon and Dylan. She only shared this information in her 2023 book. By the mid-1990s, Anderson wasn't just another cast member on Baywatch. She was the center of it all. Her 5-season run made her the face of the show, and that red swimsuit became a symbol recognized everywhere. She returned again in 2003 for Baywatch Hawaiian Wedding, and was still appearing in commercials as her character CJ in 2007, proving she had become more than just a TV character. She was part of popular culture itself. But not everything turned to gold. In 1996, Anderson took a bold leap into movies with Barbed Wire, a futuristic action film that tried to be edgy but fell completely flat. It cost $9 million to make, but only earned $3.8 million in North America. Critics were brutal, saying she couldn't deliver her lines with any emotion or weight. She had even gotten an actual barbed wire tattoo on her arm instead of using makeup every day for filming. That decision stayed with her for years, until she had it removed in 2016. The movie flopped so badly that it nearly brought down the studios behind it. The timing was especially bad because around the same time, her stolen sex tape scandal shocked the world. Even if the tape scandal hadn't happened, the film's weak script and low budget would have doomed it anyway. She knew she had to make smarter choices, and that's exactly what she did in 1998 when she launched her own television show called VIP. This time, she wasn't just acting, she was producing too. It was a strange mix of comedy and action about a small-town girl who accidentally becomes Beverly Hills' top bodyguard. The show didn't just make fun of her own image, it twisted it, mocked it, and made it work in her favor. The show ran until 2002 and helped prove that she had sharp business instincts. She controlled the story, delivered jokes with perfect timing, and ran the show on her own terms. While she was reinventing herself on screen, something else was happening in the background. In the 1990s, Anderson shocked her fan base by becoming an outspoken animal rights activist. She partnered with PETA and appeared on billboards in Times Square. In one of the most controversial campaigns, she posed with her body marked like cuts of meat to show that animals and humans share the same basic anatomy. It wasn't just for show, she really lived this lifestyle. She wrote letters, appeared in public service announcements, and even traveled to meet world leaders to promote animal rights. Her message was clear. She didn't want to be known just for her boyfriends and her body. She wanted to matter for something real and important. But personal pain kept showing up in her life. In 2006, her representative confirmed she had suffered a miscarriage while filming in Vancouver. She was 39 and married to Kid Rock, who was 35 at the time. But what came next shocked everyone. Kid Rock claimed she had made the whole thing up. In a Rolling Stone interview, he said she told him she had a miscarriage, so he flew to see her, only to find her drinking champagne and dancing on tables at a restaurant. Their marriage didn't last more than 4 months. Anderson simply said she hoped he was happy and that his album would do well, and that was it. A few years earlier, in 1997, Anderson had tried something completely new. She wrote a novel. It was called Pandemonium, and it was based partly on her own life experiences. But the timing couldn't have been worse. The sex tape scandal was happening at the same time and swallowed up everything else. Her book was completely ignored, and her chance at being taken seriously as a writer vanished. In her 2023 book, Love, Pamela, she admitted that the scandal ended any chance of being seen as a real writer or actress. She said it happened so fast, and she knew immediately that her hopes were gone. Even her dream of becoming a singer was mocked. Throughout the 2000s, she tried to pursue a childhood dream of making music, but the industry laughed at her. Record executives dismissed her as a joke. When she released her single Connected in 2013, it was barely noticed by anyone, but it meant something special to her. She had always loved music and always wanted to sing. Her book revealed how much she read and how intelligent she was, but nobody looked past her image, and the rejection was painful. Her activism continued strongly, though, and sometimes it became dangerous. In 2001, she took on KFC for animal cruelty. By 2006, she publicly boycotted the Kentucky Derby because KFC's parent company sponsored the event. The reaction was intense and angry. Protesters threw chicken at her car, and she received death threats. That same year, PETA burned a fake Colonel Sanders statue outside the original KFC restaurant in Utah. Anderson even asked the governor of Kentucky to remove Sanders' statue from the state capitol building. He refused, and KFC called it a publicity stunt. But she didn't stop fighting. In 2005, she tried one more time to change how the public saw her. She starred in a sitcom called Stacked, where she played a party girl who worked in a bookstore. The show had real promise and was actually quite clever. It was created by Steve Levitan, the same man behind Modern Family. But despite its potential, it was canceled after just 2 seasons. Fox didn't help the situation. They marketed the show with sleazy extras that worked against what the show was trying to say. Anderson said she had turned down reality TV offers to support this traditional style of scripted comedy, but no one wanted to see her as anything other than a sex symbol. The tabloids kept circling around her personal life. In her Netflix documentary Pamela, A Love Story, she revealed that she had a secret affair with a married musician in the late 1990s. She never said who it was. This happened just after her divorce from Tommy Lee in 1998 while she was raising 2 sons alone. She said it was one of her darkest times, and she was just looking for human connection. But the media used this to humiliate her even more. They painted her as a predator, and the shame stuck with her. In 2010, she joined Dancing with the Stars to try to rebuild her image. She danced the Argentine tango, the rumba, and the foxtrot. She made it to 6th place and proved she could still captivate an audience without any scandals. That same determination carried her into 22 when she shocked Broadway. At 54 years old, she stepped onto the stage as Roxy Hart in the musical Chicago. On opening night, the audience gave her a standing ovation. She sang live, she danced, and she owned every moment. She said performing gave her no time to get stuck in her own head, and the applause proved she had finally changed the story people told about her. In 2023, she launched a skincare brand called Sanzi. The products were vegan, cruelty-free, and simple. They sold so fast the company had to restock in May 2024. She had invested over $100,000 of her own money into the business. She wore no makeup at Paris Fashion Week that year, and that bare face became the brand's best advertisement. That same year, her Netflix documentary premiered on January 31st. It received 96% approval on Rotten Tomatoes and got Emmy nominations. It used her own footage, her personal journals, and her own words. Alongside the documentary came her memoir, and just like that, people saw her differently. They saw the pain, the strength, and the intelligence behind the image that had defined her for so long. Behind all of this success, there had always been one silent battle she was fighting. In 2001, doctors told her she had hepatitis C and might only live 10 more years. She claimed she had gotten it from sharing a tattoo needle with Tommy Lee, though he denied this. For 14 years, she lived with the virus in her body. In 2015, after a $100,000 treatment that was covered by her insurance, she was finally cured. On Instagram, she wrote simply, "I am cured." She said it felt like getting back 20 years of her life. The most defining relationship of Pamela's life began on New Year's Eve in 1994. She was at a club in Hollywood called Sanctuary when she sent a shot of Goldschlager to Tommy Lee. He was 32 years old and high on ecstasy and champagne. Without any warning, he slid over people just to reach her. Then he grabbed her face and licked it from her chin to her temple. Pamela didn't pull back or get angry. Instead, she laughed and then licked the face of her friend sitting beside her. That strange, wild moment kicked off something that would change both their lives forever. Just weeks later, in February 1995, Tommy flew uninvited to Cancun where Pamela was working. Without her knowing, he secretly put ecstasy in her champagne. She had never taken the drug before, and her skin felt like it was melting. In that drugged state, he proposed to her, and she said yes. They got married just 4 days after meeting, on February 19, 1995, on a beach. She had to call her boyfriend Kelly Slater and tell him she was married to someone else. She later said it was horrible to make that call. Their life together spiraled out of control very quickly. By October 1995, an electrician named Rand Gauthier, who had worked on their home, broke into their Malibu mansion. He stole a safe that contained a 54-minute honeymoon video, 8 minutes of which were explicit. That safe also had Tommy's guns and Pamela's jewelry. They didn't even realize it was missing until January 1996. By March, they were already suing Penthouse and other companies for $10 million. But it was too late. The tape was already out in the world. The man behind the theft, with help from contacts in the adult film industry, copied the tape, and sold it. It became the most infamous sex tape in internet history. Pamela and Tommy never saw a single cent from the $77 million the tape made, not even $1. By 1998, it was being sold legally on DVDs and CD-ROMs. A judge later ordered a payout in 2002, but the company had already shut down and disappeared. She was 7 months pregnant with Dylan while all this legal fighting was happening, and the stress was killing her. She agreed to drop the legal battle just to protect her unborn child. Around that same time, Bob G. Uchion from Penthouse offered her $5 million to just sell the tape rights and make it all legal. 1998, just 3 years after they got married, Tommy became violent with her. While Pamela was holding baby Dylan, he kicked her. He ripped the phone away from her, twisted her arm, and tore her fingernail completely off. Blood ran down her arm. Their 2-year-old son, Brandon, watched it all happen and started sliding down her leg, struggling to breathe from the trauma. Tommy was arrested that day. On May 20th, 1998, he was sentenced to 6 months in jail. The judge said Tommy had shown a clear pattern of violent behavior going all the way back to 1983. 2 days after his arrest, Pamela filed for divorce and asked for full custody of both children. Even before that final violent incident, the cracks in their relationship had been forming for a long time. On the set of Baywatch, Tommy's jealousy became completely unbearable. He would watch Pamela film her scenes and freak out if she had to act with another man. He once completely destroyed her trailer in a rage. Another time, he drove his car right through one. He demanded that scenes be rewritten just to ease his jealousy and possessiveness. It wasn't just jealousy, it was about control, and it ruined everything good between them. After the divorce, life didn't get any easier for Pamela. In 2006, she married Kid Rock, but the marriage only lasted 4 months. The final straw was a comedy scene in the movie Borat, where the character played by Sacha Baron Cohen tried to kidnap Pamela in a fake marriage sack as part of the movie's plot. Kid Rock completely lost it at a private screening of the film and exploded with jealousy over a scripted comedy scene. Sacha Baron Cohen later joked that, "And Pamela lost 2 things from that movie, a bit of her jawbone during a stunt and a husband." After they split up, Kid Rock publicly called her a psycho, accused her of faking the miscarriage, and even said she was paranoid around his son. Pamela didn't respond to any of these insults. She just said she hoped his music would do well and left it at that. Then came Rick Salomon. He and Pamela married in 2007, but the marriage was annulled just 2 months later. Still, they got married again in 2014. 6 months later, she filed for divorce. Then she dropped the divorce. Then she filed again in 2015. It was complete chaos. She got a restraining order against him, saying he had abused and harassed her, causing serious emotional trauma. Court papers even mentioned disturbing things that can't be repeated here. In the end, Rick agreed to pay her $1 million in a deal that let him avoid being taxed on the $40 million he had won playing poker. Pamela later admitted that these toxic patterns in her relationships came from the deep, painful wounds she had suffered during her childhood. But it wasn't just the men in her life who caused problems. The sex tape never stopped haunting her. In 2022, Hulu released a television show called Pam Tommy that dramatized her relationship and the tape scandal. No one told Pamela this was happening. She found out about it while working on her own Netflix documentary. Seeing her trauma replayed by actors on screen felt like being punched in the stomach all over again. She said it brought everything back that she had tried so hard to forget. There was no apology from the network, no warning, just another wound added to all the others. Her sons Brandon and Dylan suffered too. Tommy's drinking and drug use went on for years, and Brandon became addicted as well. Tommy even bragged online that he had spent $130,000 on rehab for his son. Then father and son had a huge fight. Brandon was defending his mother when, in one shocking moment, he punched Tommy so hard that he knocked him out completely. Brandon later said that growing up in Los Angeles made kids grow up too fast. At 18, he felt like he had already lived an entire lifetime. In 2023, decades after everything fell apart, Pamela sent Tommy a message. She told him he was her one true love and said their little family had once been beautiful. She blamed the paparazzi photographers for tearing them apart. But Tommy didn't answer her message. He was already married to someone else, and those messages made things tense in his new relationship. His new wife, Brittany Ferlin, even posted a joke online saying Pamela wouldn't care if she died. She later deleted the post, but it showed how deep the wound still ran for everyone involved. For Pamela, the damage wasn't just emotional. It completely killed her career. Just as she was trying to move from Baywatch to more serious films, the tape was stolen and leaked. Her next movie was a complete flop. She was never taken seriously as an actress again. People mocked her constantly. The depression got much worse. She had several miscarriages. Lawyers made her relive every intimate detail of her life over and over again. The public assumed she had leaked the tape on purpose and thought it was all a publicity stunt. But it wasn't. It completely broke her spirit. It was one of the hardest things she ever had to live through. Even now, nearly 30 years later, that pain hasn't fully gone away. It just lives quietly behind the face that the world thinks they know. Through her 2023 memoir and Netflix documentary, Pamela finally got to tell her own story in her own words. People began to see past the image to the real person underneath, someone who had survived incredible trauma and pain, but had also shown remarkable strength, intelligence, and its decompassion. Her story became not just about fame and scandal, but about survival, healing, and finding a way to reclaim your own narrative after the world has written it for you.